Good afternoon and welcome. Thank you for your patience. If you're still here, we assume you're really interested in this topic, so thank you for being here. My name is Lisa Kolpois, and today's session is from Strategy to Action, Building AI Capacity in Legal Aid. I'll be kicking off the session, but there are four of us who are presenting, one who is remote due to weather, of course. So I'm sure you all know that AI is not a someday issue anymore. It's already showing up in legal aid work, and a big challenge that many legal aid professionals still don't have the training, confidence, and support they need to understand and use these tools effectively and responsibly. With rising demands for services and limited resources, the legal aid community can't afford to ignore AI, especially since it's already being used in your organizations, even if you don't know it. Today, you'll learn how 4 justice communities are building AI confidence and capacity through practical programming. We'll focus on how we are addressing this challenge, the impact we're seeing, and how these efforts can be replicated. We'll also share how we're thinking about sustainability and change management. So the 4 state justice communities that are represented in this session are from west to east, California, Illinois, Michigan, and New York. Each of us presenters will introduce ourselves and our organization shortly. Before we do that, though, we want to know who you are. Before we jump in, we want to really take the temperature of the room, so we better know how to tailor this session. So there's 2 informal poll questions we're going to ask. We'd like to do this old school and ask you to raise your hands. All the responses are up there. When you hear the response that reflects you, raise your hand. Okay, so let's go with the first one. So the first question is, what is your primary role? So raise your hand if you're primarily a legal aid attorney or an allied professional, someone who provides direct services. Okay. Okay, now raise your hand if you're a manager or leader of a legal aid organization. A few more of those, great. If you're a tech professional, okay. If you're a funder, wow, all right. And then lastly, if none of those roles fit you, please raise your hand. Okay. We have a good mix of people in the room. The second question is, where is your organization in its AI journey? So whose organization is not using AI at all? It's okay to admit it. Okay. Whose organization has just started exploring AI? Okay, a lot of those. Who is actively experimenting with AI tools? You may be conducting some limited pilots. Okay, we've got a lot of those. And then who's already integrated AI into some workflows? A few. Okay, so it sounds like we've got a broad mix of people in the room and a lot of organizations that are actively experimenting with AI tools already. So good to know. Thank you for that. All right. So I am going to turn it over now to my colleague, MJ Joyce Smith, who is going to introduce the California justice community.
Thank you, Lisa. Hi, everyone. I'm very excited to be with you all today to talk about the work we're doing at the State Bar of California to build AI capacity among our grantees. You can go on to the next slide. Okay. So just some quick background on the State Bar. So our State Bar in California is split It was unified up until 2018, and then when the split occurred, we became a fully regulatory body. Also, we are responsible for administering state and IOLTA funding for civil legal aid. The office that works on that is the Office of Access and Inclusion. And in addition to administering state and IOLTA funding, the office also supports DEI initiatives in the legal profession. And last piece, the Legal Services Trust Fund Commission is the board that oversees the funding to civil legal aid providers across the state. So in 2026, we will be funding $292 million, or providing $292 million in funding to about 118 legal aid organizations.
All right. So I'm Lisa Colpoys. I'm the Senior Consultant to the AI Initiative for the Lawyers Trust Fund. The Lawyers Trust Fund is Illinois' IOLTA program. It is also the largest funder of civil legal aid in the state. In 2026, the Lawyers Trust Fund, also known as LTF, is providing over $31 million in annual funding to 57 grantees that provide civil legal aid. The Lawyers Trust Fund is really kind of uniquely positioned to lead this AI challenge because of its long history of launching and funding innovative efforts. Other ways that make Lawyers Trust Fund a really great organization to be spearheading this effort is it has a broad statewide perspective. LTF funds organizations across the entire state, from very small to very large legal aid. It has a convening power. It can bring people together. It has a financial capacity, as do many IOLTA programs, because of interest rate increases over the last several years. And as I said, there's a history of innovation. LTF was instrumental in launching some groundbreaking organizations, including CARPLS, which was one of the first legal aid legal aid hotlines in the country, Illinois Legal Aid Online, Rentervention, which is a tenant chatbot, and Debt Help Illinois, which if you don't know about it, there's a session about it here at this conference, and you should learn about it. But the AI initiative was launched in 2024, and it was designed to help legal aid programs across Illinois understand, leverage, and navigate the challenges and opportunities that generative AI bring. So the focus is really on building the capacity and confidence and competence among legal aid professionals. All right, I'm going to turn it over to Bridget.
Thanks, Lisa. My name is Bridget Carr, and I am a clinical law professor at the University of Michigan Law School. I'm so disappointed that I couldn't join you today, but I'm excited as technology means I still get to have a chance to participate and hear everyone. I wanted to frame sort of our position in ecosystem in this planting seeds and tending gardens framework, which I got from a wonderful newsletter or Substack piece from the Vanderbilt AI Model Lab, which really talked about when we're trying to build AI capacity, we want to be clear which thing we're doing. Are we planting seeds, just giving people some ideas, or are we tending gardens? And we at the University of Michigan Law School have decided we're going to try to do both. And I can't wait to share with you about the ways that we're doing that. But why does the distinction matter? Next slide, please. What we realized is that when people call us and they want training or they want to learn about AI, they're used to calling a law school or calling a lawyer and getting an answer. They want us to be the expert. And as we know, that's not possible in AI. You can't wrap your hands around it. If you think you did, let them in a task and it's changing. And so we're really trying to teach people a mindset rather than do X or Y. And so we are trying in lots of different ways with lots of different parts of our community in Michigan. Next slide, please. To do that. And we've been lucky enough to really find amazing partnerships. So we are AI Law Policy Clinic, sorry, human trafficking clinic at Michigan in 2009. I started this clinic 2 weeks ago, so I'm still getting used to the name. But we've already committed to partner with our State Bar Foundation, and they support us with that open funding to offer AI labs for legal aid lawyers, where we spent the day really playing with the design thinking mindset, which was really fun. We're partnering with the State Bar to negligence sections do some of the same. We're working directly with legal aid organizations in our clinic, which we'll talk a little bit about later. We're also partnering directly with courts and clerks, and we're building out some trainings with our state court administrator. This is how we've been answering the question of how might we build capacity in Michigan. But I would love to know if some of you in the audience are partnering with law schools in your jurisdictions, other things you might be doing to both Menzies and Guards. And I will pass it up to New York.
Okay, thank you so much. So I am Ellen Samuel. I am the Chief Operating Officer at JustTech and the Director of Consulting. And we were really excited to thank you to Iola New York, who is back there. Hi, Chrissy, thank you. Get us started in working with a lot of legal aid organizations and actually taking this around the country, figuring out what you all really need in order to better understand and implement AI. A little bit more about us. So we just celebrated our 10th year in business, started by John Greiner, legal aid attorney, and the vast majority of our staff come from legal aid, all very we find the mission of legal aid very important, and really that's why we do what we do. We are here to help you all better use technology. We've worked with more than 120 legal aid organizations or legal organizations around the country and territories, and we work with mostly nonprofit clients. We have a 30-member team growing every day, very excited. We do managed IT services, so help desk services, but also cybersecurity, case management, help with cloud infrastructure, and we have some really exciting AI products that we've developed in order to help the community. So we spent a lot of time talking with, and with Iola's help, talking with legal aids about what they need, and we found that there were some recurring issues. You all have limited resources, right? You know that, this is not any surprise. How can we best maximize the resources that you all have so that we can help the most of you so that you can help the most people, right, get access to legal services? We also found that there was a huge knowledge gap and a lot of misunderstanding and a lot of fear from legal aid, from lawyers, from paralegals, from administrators, just a whole lot of education that we needed to do and a knowledge gap so that we could get everybody on the same page and make sure they were moving together in the right way and really understanding the reasons why we need to use AI. And then we also found there were a lot of infrastructure problems, a lot, right? You cannot effectively and safely use AI if your systems are a mess, if you don't know where your files are, if you don't have certain things locked down, if your cybersecurity is not good. So we found some really fundamental problems that we needed to fix in order to get people kind of rowing in the same direction.
Okay, so after those brief introductions of our 4 justice communities, we're going to dive a little deeper into each one, again, going from west to east and starting with California.
So the State Bar launched an initiative called the Legal Aid Justice Technology Collaborative. I think that the points that were made up here about why our justice communities needed the support, this is the response in California. So there were several years that went into launching this initiative. It really started because of requests from legal aid grantees around the state in California who are asking for support with technology. This led to a multi-year stakeholder process. We engaged a lot of folks from the legal aid community. There were state bar staff, grantee staff, academics, commissioners from the Legal Services Trust Fund, consultants, and other folks as well. And goal here is really for us to be grantee and client centered. We don't want this to be a top-down approach. The goal is really for it to be bottom up, ground up, and we can go on to the next slide. I'm going to be talking about some of the projects that we're currently working on under this initiative. Oh, actually, sorry, can you go back one slide real quick?
Sure.
I forgot to mention there's a QR code up on the screen that links to the LAJTC work plan that got approved last year in November. So if you are interested in checking that out, scan the QR code. It will also be in the slide deck on the CVent app if you don't catch it. Okay. So there are 3 priority areas under the LAJTC that I want to talk about today as it specifically relates to building AI capacity. One of those is supporting baseline tech adoption. Much like Ellen just said, I think we really see that folks are struggling with just baseline technology, and that's really an important foundation before you are working on AI exploration. Second, we're working to foster community and leadership across the state as it relates to AI adoption. We really want folks from legal aid programs to be in conversation with one another, to be learning from each other's failures, to be learning from each other's successes, and we also want to be actively involved in promoting leadership in this space, so identifying folks who are really at the forefront of implementing AI at their organizations. And lastly, I'm going to be talking about some of the tools that we're building at the State Bar specifically to help grantees build capacity for responsible AI adoption. So first, on the baseline technology piece, again, I think first and foremost, it's just really drilling down every chance we get that these foundational tech baseline pieces are critical for safe and ethical AI exploration and adoption. I think Ellen will probably drill this down, so I won't talk about it further, but I can't understate the critical importance of that. So to that end, the State Bar is currently exploring a statewide cybersecurity program that would be modeled off of the Legal Services Corporation's KnowBe4 program that's offered to all of its grantees. This is just a pretty affordable way for funders to support the organizations that they fund by just having a group cybersecurity program. Second, and this has been something that I've been actively working on since starting at the State Bar this past November, we are providing targeted technical assistance to our grantees to help explore ways to improve baseline technology and cybersecurity. So we're identifying free and low-cost baseline resources. I would say that the main things that I point folks to are 1, LSC's technology baselines, 2, just a multitude of resources available on LSNTAP for safeguarding your organization's IT. I would also direct you to Ellen and Edward from ArchTech. JustTech and ArchTech have a lot of resources available too, and I would also encourage folks to reach out to organizations like theirs if you are having trouble doing this work on your own. And finally, we are considering pursuing rule changes for our state funding that will require additional cybersecurity requirements for our grantees. Okay, next, fostering community and leadership. So first, one of the things that we're currently working on is building out an advisory panel to oversee the work of the LAJTC. This will be primarily composed of grantees, though we also expect it will include folks from the academic community. To Bridget's point, I think it's really critical that we involve law schools in this endeavor and that law schools are in conversation with legal aid providers. It will also include folks from our Trust Fund Commission, and then, of course, some folks from the State Bar as well. But I think, again, to my earlier point about this work us centering grantees and clients in this work. I think without having an oversight body that is primarily composed of grantees, you're not going to have that perspective driving the work. So I think that's really critical if your state is setting up a similar initiative, to really make sure that the stakeholders that you're trying to support are at the table helping inform decision making. Second, we're launching an AI champion network. So I mentioned earlier wanting to really identify leaders in this work and hold them up. And so to that end, I've been working to identify folks across the state who are already leaders in AI, have already done a lot of the groundwork for safe experimenting, have already started exploring, I would say, more robust uses of AI. Also to have encouraged their organizations to adopt AI policies. And so the purpose of this body will be, one, again, to just recognize leadership that exists in the state, but two, to have a direct resource that will be available for folks to do peer-to-peer collaboration and mentoring. Sometimes legal aid grantees don't want to hear from their funder. It's a lot easier, I think, to learn directly from a peer who is doing the same work in the field as you are. They're more familiar with the challenges that you're experiencing, the realities of being at a legal aid organization. So this provides us with a pathway to be able to reach folks through, in that way. And finally, we are convening community members through our monthly Tech and AI workshop series. So through these virtual workshops, we highlight different successful projects across the state of California. And it's just been a nice way to bring together folks from across the state who are already interested in technology, allow them to connect with one another, to learn what each other is doing, and again, to really allow folks to build off of each other's successes. Okay, and lastly, I'm going to talk just about the specific tools that we're working to develop to help with responsible AI adoption at the State Bar's grantees. And so the two main ones are a risk framework and a maturity model. So there are already a lot of resources available for assessing risk as it relates to AI. I have found, though, that a lot of them are more specific to the private sector. They're not specific to a legal aid audience. They're not thinking about the same ethical considerations that a legal aid program is. They're not necessarily thinking about the values of a legal aid program. For example, like one, I think everyone, commonly talks about the AI privacy piece of is client data safeguarded, but there's also other aspects of AI that I think are important to consider. One of our grantees, staff members, who is going to be on our AI Champion Network, pointed out to me that a lot of the data centers that are being built up to support AI platforms end up being housed in communities where a lot of legal aid clients live. And so I think considering that as we think about building out AI is really critical. So to that end, we're working to kind of tailor these tools that already exist to a legal aid audience. And the maturity model piece of this is essentially a way for a program to go in and see where they're at on the spectrum of AI experience so they could figure out what is appropriate for them to adopt with AI at this point. Because, for example, as we've been saying, if you don't have baseline technology in place, you're going to really struggle to safely, ethically adopt AI at your organization. So a starting point for them would be upping their tech baselines, versus an organization that has done a lot more exploration, has an AI policy in place. They're better positioned for deeper exploration, I'll say. In addition to this, again, we're promoting this work through our monthly workshop series I just mentioned. I'm also providing one-on-one technical assistance to folks with AI, including 3 State Bar grantees who recently received funding from OpenAI. And then lastly, we are identifying potential funding opportunities to support greater innovation in AI that would supplement the State Bar's existing funding resources.
All right.
Thank you.
Okay, moving east, we're going to Illinois. So I'm going to talk a little bit about the Lawyers Trust Fund's AI initiative and do a little bit of a deep dive. So just to recap, the goal of this initiative is to support legal aid professionals so they can fully leverage and understand the opportunities and navigate the challenges that are presented by AI. And to be clear, the intention is not to replace people. It is to augment and empower them. And also to be clear, the AI initiative is focusing on helping legal aid professionals be better at their jobs or get more time back or many of the things that AI can help with. So since many of you in the room are already very familiar with AI, it's not surprising to you that AI can help with many of these things like expanding capacity, decreasing client wait time and increasing client satisfaction, reducing costs, and helping people do more of what matters to them, and maybe even improving the mental health of legal aid lawyers. So those are ways that we are, big picture, trying to help the legal aid professionals through the use of AI. Some specific use cases, though, that many of you probably already know are listed here. One of the things that I get asked all the time, and in my role as a consultant to the AI initiative, I'm really kind of like the AI Sherpa for legal aid, really this guide for LTF grantees. And I get asked all the time, what AI should I be using? And so my answer is always, what problem you're trying to solve, right? And so they're not asking the right question. And what are the pain points you have? What problem are you trying to solve? And so then we can talk about where you're struggling or where you need help. And it could be with writing, drafting, legal research, this whole list of things, including non-legal uses like fundraising and operations, whether it's HR, training, or whatever. But there are lots of uses. And part of my role is to introduce people to those uses so they understand where they could start exploring AI. Some of the key initiatives that we've put in place through the AI initiative, well, in September 24, when we launched, we started with a discovery process. So I reached out to all of our grantees. Currently, we have 57, and had meetings with grantee leadership to learn about what their perspectives are on AI, what their use is in their organizations. I had interviews with various legal aid leaders, tech leaders, and we conducted a survey in October of 2024. I'll talk about that a little bit later. We've engaged in various channels for community engagement. So I moderate an AI discussion group where people can post content, post questions, engage in conversations about AI. We've hosted virtual AI office hours. Initially, they were once a week, and they were drop-in sessions, and they've evolved to be once a month. And the reason is what we found was drop-in sessions weren't as useful for folks who didn't know a lot about AI. They were reluctant to come and talk about AI or ask questions when they didn't have the requisite knowledge. And so instead, we've pivoted so that we're providing more targeted training and programming through those AI office hours. We've also provided some basic training. We had an Intro to AI webinar series, and some of the topics that were covered in that webinar series included just a basic, what is AI in layman's terms? What is an AI use policy? Why do you need one, and how do you get one? The ethics of AI in a legal aid practice, how to effectively prompt AI, and things like that. And those were, again, webinars recorded and still available through the community. A more interactive and deeper dive activity that we've been engaging in is our peer learning groups. So the first peer learning group that we engaged was 8 fundraising professionals. They were from 8 different organizations. So we started with a non-legal use case, and it was using AI for grant writing. It actually turned into using AI for grant discovery, grant writing, and grant management, kind of the whole spectrum of the grant lifecycle. But it was a group of 8 that came together and agreed to work together for 4 to 6 months. They first explored what the universe of AI tools are for doing this type of work. Once they decided which ones they wanted to test, we created a testing protocol so they would be comparing apples to apples, and then did some testing of these AI tools. Forthcoming will be a report, so not only will these 8 fundraising professionals have the benefit of this work, we'll be able to share it with the entire community. We plan to engage another peer learning group in the near future, and this will likely be a legal use case. We've developed an online resource library. It's a curated hub. It really provides all types of resources, from recorded trainings to sample policies to articles to access to tools, a whole online hub that people can access when they want to get more information about AI. And then Lawyers Trust Fund also provided some strategic opportunity grants. So grantees could apply for funding, limited one-time funding for AI-related projects. I'm going to talk about that a little bit more right now. So it was really exciting to be able to not only provide kind of technical support, but to provide funding so that programs could really begin to explore AI. And some of the projects that were funded through these special grants included an AI phone agents for intake. And in fact, Legal Aid Chicago did that, and they're doing a presentation here on that tomorrow. So if you're interested in AI for phone agents, go to that. It's fascinating. But some other things that grantees were interested in doing with these special funds were automating immigration documents, exploring legal research tools. Some of them just wanted to get their staff up to speed on using a general AI like ChatGPT or Copilot, so they paid for licenses for their entire staff, and things like that. So a great opportunity for grantees to really dive in and explore more. Getting back to the discovery phase and that survey that we did a survey of the legal aid community. About 25% of all legal aid professionals in Illinois responded, so that's about 400 people. And the first survey was in 2024, and it was really asking about their familiarity with, their use of AI, and then some more questions about what AIs they use, what type of support they'd like, and things like that. But just a couple of insights here. We reran the survey in 2025, a year later. A couple of insights here. The chart on the left shows familiarity with AI technology. In the blue is 2024, and the orange is 2025. So you can see here that in 2024, it was mostly like most people were not at all or only slightly familiar with AI. It was kind of like a downward slope toward the extreme familiarity. And a year later, it's more like a U-shaped curve. So you can see there has been a significant shift in familiarity in just 1 year time. The second chart is AI integration into your work. And so in 2024, that was even less than familiarity. It's still less than familiarity, but again, you can see the shift in just a year in the percentage of people in legal aid who are using AI in their work. We're excited to continue to collect that data and see trends as they evolve over the years. So what's next? We will continue to cultivate this coalition of the willing, is what we call it, but it's like your champions network, right? There are many people in our community who are really excited about using AI, and so we will continue to kind of champion their work. We've done quite a bit of virtual training, and we are considering hosting some in-person convenings so that we can have more engaged training and folks can get some hands-on experience, perhaps building tools, providing some more tailored support to, again, this coalition of the willing. We're thinking of launching an AI learning platform that everyone in the state would have access to. And we want to collaborate more broadly, really to raise the AI capacity, to raise everyone's level. And if we can collaborate with folks across the country to do that, we would love to do it. So if you want to contact me, feel free. There's my email address, and I'm going to pass it off to my neighbor to the east, Michigan.
Wonderful. And who's your native? I might say it's Indiana, but Northeast, right? So I'm so excited to talk about the capacity building that we're doing. And I say we because I don't work alone. My colleague in all the initiatives that I'm talking about today is Vivek Singran, who, like me, is a long-time clinical law professor. I founded and ran for over it feels like a million years, but just about 20 years with the trafficking clinic, and Vivek Singran runs the child welfare clinic. And so we really come to this space with a long history of serving people who already don't have access to legal services, and with the question of how might we make sure that as AI is on the scene, that we make sure that these folks aren't left behind. So the first thing we actually did was, in this space, other than pitching the clinic to law school, is that we really had this idea of how might we spend time with legal aid professionals and give them a chance to flip, especially for people reluctant to start using it. You might be surprised, or you might not be, that even in our own clinic, which we started a couple weeks ago, of the 18 law students that we've had, 3 to 4 of them had never really played around with AI yet. And so if you're in your room and you're like me, approaching a higher age than most law students and thinking that this tech is leaving you behind, know that it's also leaving behind the 20-year-olds that I'm teaching right now. So we pitched the idea of the legal lab, and the State Bar Foundation offered to support us in providing a full day experience for legal aid attorneys and staff. And in addition, for licenses for those folks to have a license for an LLM for 3 months, and then we posted office hours. We were not strategic enough to come up with some of these wonderful terms like the coalition of the willing or something like that. And we work on that for next year. But the frame what we were calling our AI legal labs really matches how we build out our clinic, which is that we're trying to teach law students and the people we train that design the process. And we really use AI as a thought partner and a support in these processes. Like Lisa talked about, we ask people in these trainings, what are your pain points? We show them how AI can help them brainstorm. We prototype fast. It's a fun day. I think there's at least one person in here right now who actually participated in this day with us. We've now moved on to having only full day opportunities. These are the labs, and do them sort of in differing sizes from 2 hours to a full day. I think they work best when they are a full day and in person. I will say that in our very first one, there was a very experienced legal aid attorney in the room who said to Vivek and I about 3/4 of the day, this was a direct quote, "I wanted to hate this, but I'm mad that I did." And we really appreciated that, because I think she was being totally honest. And so that's our goal for folks who might want to hate it, to come away having some fun. And so, next slide, please. I wanted to share a bit more into that, of sort of what we're doing when we're meeting with people. And both in the clinic and now in our AI lab, we're really embedding our approach in the Justice Bench language. We're actually using that as our textbook in the clinic. And we opened our clinic this year, so we have 18 students. We're partnered with 6 stakeholders out in the community. I'll talk a little bit more about our partnerships and our projects. And those partners have given us pain points and challenge statements that our students are going to try to come up with ideas in cooperation and collaboration with those stakeholders about how to address those pain points and where AI might be a good fit and where it might cause, it might cause harm. And so in our second class of the clinic, we did a 3-hour boot camp where we kind of ran our students through the same types of things we run lawyers through in the legal lab and asked them to take the challenge statement and walk through understanding, empathizing with it, anticipating, planning, and envisioning. I think students in the room, even those who had had some significant experience with AI, were shocked at how AI can be a partner in this process. And it's been very interesting for me to see, as someone who's taught design thinking in lots of different contexts, how this AI partner is actually turbocharging students' ability to jump in and work on these issues. Next slide, please. So the majority of my time is really spent in those first 2 things I would call receiving, and this is really the guard of what we're doing. We offer a semester-long course, but it will be offered every semester. And some of you may be thinking, why law school in this space? Well, I can say that for us, one of the reasons we entered it, in addition to our experience working with those who normally don't have access to legal services, is that we endured. In the human trafficking clinic, I have had clients with active caseloads for over 15 years. And so I think some of the successes of the human trafficking clinic are that we are not a one-and-done experience, that we stay there. We have amazing students who put in tons and tons of time, talent, and expertise into this work. And so that's really what we hope to bring to this space and with our legal aid and court partners, that we can hopefully have long-term partnerships with them to really say, what's your pain point? How can we learn as much about it as possible? Can we incubate a prototype or work in demo? And then can law students really fill that role of human in the loop, putting the reps in to make sure we're not doing harm, to make sure that it's accurate and it's working well, and really let us bear that burden of what so many of those sort of things that fail. Let us fail for you, learn the lesson, and keep going until we have something that's ready to go or ready for you to try out so that you can still do the day-to-day work of serving the folks that you're serving. Not that we don't want your help in that process, but we just know that we all are maxed at capacity right now. And even as someone who loves playing around with AI and enjoys it, I think we all have to recognize that this takes time. It takes time to learn to play. It takes time to figure out what works. And then it changes, and so you're investing that time again. It's not a one-time investment of time. Next slide, please. So some people may be wondering who we're working with. I did not, before this presentation, get permission from the partners to share. So I know that there is one of our partners in the room, so I am not sharing, but if that person wants to raise their hand and we can talk to them about our experience. But these are the types of projects that we're working with. We are working with legal aid organization on whether we can help really respond, because there are a number of tools out there, a lease review tool. We're working with Exxon Legal Resource Center in Michigan to get a navigator for families. We're looking at we're working with a nonprofit for youth aging out of foster care. We're trying to help probate clerks. We're thinking about a parenting time navigator, and also this one is actually shifted already because of some events happening in the U.S. But we're also asking every tool we can build to help respond to issues facing refugees now. And so this is the type of work that students are doing. One of the things that we really hope for and are really excited about is that we have a mix of court-facing tools, staff-facing tools, and as well as individual litigant-facing tools themselves. And so I have no idea if our semester is going to be successful in conventional terms, meaning will we build something that's effective, but I definitely know that we'll learn a ton no matter what, and we'll be excited to start it in the next semester and keep improving. Next slide, please. So one other thing I have to say is that we are finding within the law school ourselves and also working out in the legal culture in Michigan, that capacity building is definitely cultural change. One of our biggest focuses, in addition to trying to close the gap for people who need legal services, is really asking questions about if you're able to do the things that AI promises, if you're able to save time and become more efficient, what are we doing with quote unquote that extra time? Are we making sure to, at the outset, build in more time for human judgment, human connection, and empathy? I fear that so much of this focus on productivity and efficiency just means we will continue to dehumanize the people who provide these services and turn them even more and more closely into robots. And I don't think that's any of our goals, but I think if we're not paying attention at the outset, it's very easy for that to happen. In addition to the privacy rules and the data center, privacy issues and the data center issues that MJ mentioned at the beginning. So these are all the things we're trying to manage and think about. We've started a subset that we are actually writing about classes as we do. It is a mix of AI stuff and compassion, in addition to teaching the AI law and policy clinic, so they can also teach a course that uses design thinking to help students build a lovely life called Designing a Fulfilling Life in the Law. And so really our work with AI is both of those things. How can we close the justice gap, but also make sure that the human beings closing that gap are taken care of. And so we would love to hear your comments, to hear about what you're doing. I didn't, my email is right up there. I'm small, but please reach out. We'd love to hear what you're doing with your law school, or how you might be helpful to you.
All right, thank you, Bridget. And now, lastly, we're going east, as far east as we can, to New York.
Wonderful, thank you. I love the more time to be human. That is amazing. That's incredible framing of where we find ourselves today. I wanted to talk a little bit about what we've been working on. The first thing I wanted to start with is our SciTap model. And thank you again to Iola New York, who helped us with this. And the SciTap model, the SciTap program, stands for Cybersecurity and Technology Advancement Project. And this did not start out as an AI-specific initiative, but it kind of morphed into one. We started, and Iola's goal is part of the Justice Infrastructure Project, and I'm sure Iola would be more than happy to talk to you more about it. It's an incredible project, a huge endeavor that we're really incredibly lucky to be able to help with. But part of that was to get Iola's grantees up to a kind of minimal level of security, which is really important to making sure that you all have safe and secure systems, because you really can't protect your clients and your staff without having the infrastructure and the security available there. So we started with a security cohort, and we started by grouping different grantees into different groups according to their needs. And what we found was there was some real security, some lacking security. So our first group that we started with, we got them all up to a very minimal level of security, but really helped them start and advance that process. Part of this program was to be very community focused, and we created groups from different organizations so that they could share with each other where they were in their technology journey, share resources, ask questions together, and really learn from each other. we found there was a lot of interest about AI, and so our second cohort was what we termed AI University. And this was a comprehensive AI education for all of the grantees. And we had some really incredible participation, amazing feedback. We had a lot of participants throughout New York State. 72 organizations participated, and it was a really resounding success. We had, I'm going to talk a little bit more about how it was structured, but it went really well, and we got really good feedback. And then we also got to wrap up, again, not an AI-specific or event, but we got to work with IOLA on a Justice Infrastructure Summit where we brought together organizations from all over New York to talk about the Justice Infrastructure Project. But we also did a lot of talking about AI and how that's going to help us, help our clients access justice. We went into AI University thinking this is something we can replicate around the country. This is a model that we can put together and make affordable for all different kinds of organizations, groups, IOLTA funders, so that we can use kind of economies of scale and use lots of different resources together in order to get people up to speed on AI. What we did is we created a structure where we had discussion sessions once a month. So we brought together national experts. We had incredible talks from Damian Reel and Ray Bresica and a lot of different other speakers about what they're doing in AI. And we got to ask questions and see what advancements they were making. We got to talk to Microsoft. So lots of people around the country who were willing to help us out and work with us and talk to the grantees. We also, this was a really exciting part, we got to have hands-on labs with the grantees. So we split them up into smaller groups, and for people who were interested, we brought them in and we got them licenses for ChatGPT, so the paid version, right? So they could experiment and work with us, and then we brought them together for sessions where we had some kind of guided exercise, and we'd work through with them with the license that we gave them and had them ask questions. We helped them out. We worked through the problems they were having, and it was really exciting and cool to see the things that people came up with. And then we also, like Lisa, we had office hours where we invited people to come in and ask us questions. It's really interesting that you said it wasn't all that well attended. We found the same thing. We had some people who were really interested and had lots of experience, but I think those newbies were really kind of scared to come and ask questions. So definitely something we will learn from for the next times that we're doing this. But really our idea was to have a learning community and have people be able to come and join together and realize that they're all in this together and we all have the same goal. How can we use the technology safely, securely in order to get us there? So we had some principles, some ways that we wanted to go forward, things that we wanted to think about while we went through this process with the grantees. Our very first session was called Don't Be Afraid, with AI capitalized, and we started out right out of the gate by addressing fear directly. We know there's a lot of fear, a lot of misinformation, but also a lot of really good reasons people should be scared about AI, especially when it comes to putting confidential client information in there, the environmental aspects of AI. There's some scary stuff. So we wanted to hit that head on. We wanted to talk about the concerns people had. Will AI replace jobs? Yeah, it will, but hopefully not ours. How are we going to use it responsibly? What do we do about the environmental impact of AI? So we really started off the gate hoping to get those naysayers, the people who are very uncomfortable, more comfortable in the process and keep them coming and learning from us throughout the sessions. We also really found that it's important to engage leadership, and I think the other organizations have found that as well, right? We need to have a cohesive message from the top down to staff about what AI is, how are we using AI, these are the safe ways to do it. If we found that if leadership is pessimistic or doesn't want to do it, it really is hard for staff to understand and adopt AI safely. So we did our job to get everyone educated on the same page, speaking the same language, so that we could go forward with the learning. We also tried to connect AI to wellness. I think something that people don't talk about that much, but that Lisa mentioned, is that AI can really help us as legal aid professionals, people who deal with trauma a lot. It can help us. It can help us reframe the issues that our clients are having. It can help us learn the words that can help other people, that can help us better formulate what we're saying, help us deal with the really horrible situations that we deal with. So, and also can free up time, like Bridget was saying, free up time to be human, to do other things, to really make that connection with our clients, be able to spend more time talking with them, understanding their issues, and less time drafting the same memo that we've done 800 times, right? And then we tried to kind of normalize the journey. We're all new at this, right? This is an incredibly new field. AI has been around for a long time, but in legal aid, it's really, really new. So we're welcome to questions. There's no stupid questions. We understand there will be mistakes, right? And so we want to make sure that people understand that, and building that comfort over time. They're not going to be experts overnight. We're not expecting them to. We just want them to be comfortable enough and understand enough so they can experiment safely and understand how they can improve their workflows and their everyday work with AI. Go to the next page. Okay, so how do we fund this? How do we pay for this? Like I said, we have been really lucky to be able to work with funders. I know there's a bunch of funders in the room here, so I really encourage you to all, I know you all get together and talk about these things, but there are programs already existing like ours that you can help pay for to get your grantees all together. There's so many benefits here. There's benefits of getting the communities together. A lot of these orgs don't talk to each other, right? So get them together, force them into a group, have them increase their cybersecurity, but also learn about AI and other different types of technology while you're at it. The cohort structure really worked well with group sessions, people really participating and committing. We really asked for a commitment from people, and they came through, and they really were interested and continued to learn. And the shared license structure worked really well as well. So we could, when you are able to buy a bunch of licenses in bulk, you can get better prices on that, and we could have one organization, one funder buy those, and then you share those with the grantees, and that was really an excellent use of funds. It's more efficient to do it this way as well, right? We created materials, we will reuse those materials. We have people teaching each other, and that's really helpful for a lot of reasons. They're all in the same situation or similar situations. They can share with each other, they can teach each other, and then they're creating lasting networks. This is really a great use of time and efficiency and human relationships. And then, we are a consulting firm, and consultants just can help with this, right? You all don't have the time and energy and money to have one person or a group of people usually work on this. You have plenty of other things to do. So it can be much more resource efficient to hire out, to outsource these kinds of things and these kinds of programs so that you can share amongst your organization and amongst your state and your networks. I know we're running low on time because we had some tech difficulties. I'm gonna kind of speed through this. Another thing that we developed is what we call Flash AI training. And I know we do have some people in the room who have done it. We have created a one-day organization, or multiple organizations if you want, intensive training to get all of your staff up to speed on AI. We can do pretty much any number of participants. The biggest one I think we've done so far is about 150 people. But it's really incredible to get everybody together and hear what they have to say, and be able to address those fears and those concerns and those questions and understand from an organizational wide level what we're doing with AI. what we got to do in the morning is to talk about, again, introduction to AI, making sure everybody is on the same page. How can we use these tools to make ourselves more efficient? How can we use the tools to better support our communities and get more people access to justice? And then in the afternoon, we break out into small hands-on groups where we really work with people to create something, right? So they can come out of this saying, hey, I used AI, I made something. This is something cool that I could bring back to my office and work on and really can use it to make my workflows more efficient. And then at the end, we kind of wrap up with next steps, key takeaways, provide resources, and try to get people to commit to some action items. This is what we're going to do. This is what my team is going to do. This is how we're going to use AI in the coming weeks and kind of see how things go. If we can go to on. We also found, while we work with a lot of legal aid organizations, and we've really found the need for a AI-powered knowledge platform that was self-contained, safe, and within the organization. And so what we did, seeing that needed, we created an AI product called JTAI. And what it does is it creates knowledge hubs, either internal or external. So some organizations have been using this for their internal staff. We can also deploy it on a website so that you can collate resources and collect them and have AI answer questions for clients, not legal advice, but for clients as well, or potential, not clients, but for the public. What it does is it can integrate existing documents that you have, again, getting back to making sure that your infrastructure is in order and that you have good systems there. It can organize it into searchable, semantically structured hubs, and then we deploy AI agents that will answer questions about the information that you have collected there. And we're working already with early adopters in New York, in Texas, and Wisconsin. Amazing feedback, and it's been really exciting. So we'd be happy to talk with you more about that. I'm going to skip this because I want to just make sure that we have time for questions. Our practical takeaways, again, start with good security and data hygiene first. Your systems need to be in order. They really do. You need to make sure that your systems are safe before you take on any additional technology. So if you have any questions about that, we were in a cybersecurity session right before this, and there was a IOTA funder that said, hey, ask us for money. If you need help with security, ask us for money. We want to make sure that you are secure. So please, ask them for money. They want to make sure that your systems are secure. So if you're struggling with those IT resources, there are funders available who may be able to help you with that. Make sure that you're creating that safe space to experiment. Tell people what their guardrails are, what they absolutely can't do, but then otherwise let them experiment, see what they can do. Engage national expertise. Coming to the conference is a great start. There are those of us who are working with people all around the country, so we're happy to help. Fund sustainability, work with other organizations, create cohorts, work with other people, reuse those resources so that you don't have to create them every time. And then again, really important, connect AI to our mission. Our mission is to help people with their legal problems. Our mission is to help people access justice. How can we have AI help us do that responsibly? It's a scary time, but it's a super exciting time. There are so many tools available for us to be able to help more people, and we're just very excited to be able to help the community go forward and do that.
Okay. Thanks, Ellen. So now we'd love to know if you have any questions. I think we'd also like to know what you're doing to help build AI capacity, and what types of support, if you're not, what types of support you think would be useful.
I do see we have one question in the CVent chat, and Dave Panzer, I hope I'm saying that right, is asking if there are advantages to working on this at the local level rather than the national level. For me, I would say I think it's a both situation. I don't know. I think for anything access to justice, it's an all hands on deck. We know how large the justice gap is. We know that more support is needed. I think so. I was formerly at Legal Services Corporation with the Technology Initiative Grants team. Shout out to all my LLC colleagues who organized ITC this year. But I think the difference that I see is that nationally we can convene folks to learn what's happening between the states. I think at the state level we have more of an ability to convene legal aid providers. And I think there's opportunities for peer learning that are richer when you have folks from the same state, from the same area, who are working with similar client communities. I think the other piece for me at the state level is the piece that you just named, Ellen, around funding, that I think there are state funding resources available that don't necessarily exist at the national level, and I think we can take advantage of those to help programs in our states.
I have one thing in there. I think I would put in a plug for some hyper-local experiences, meaning there's this great book called, I think it's called The Culture Code, which gave a task to build something to law students and architects and architectural students and kindergartners, and the youngest kids did the best. And some of the evidence that they pulled out from that was that because those kids weren't afraid to literally get shoulder to shoulder with each other and kind of get messy and right in there together. And I just find that when you can create physical spaces where people can get shoulder to shoulder in together and learn and show each other their screens and try this and try that, that there's really some magic there. And so I agree with you, MJ. I think it is all, and I want to put in a plug for the hyperlocal.
So if I can clarify the question a little bit, because that makes a lot of sense. And it's restricted to a number of characters, so it's hard to ramble. Yeah, I'd like to take a long time now. I hear what you're saying, and I certainly see, and I think it's but I also hear like multiple organizations around the country are building some of the exact same things or very, very similar types of things to help with some of the basic educational pieces, foundational educational things, and in Maryland we're trying to explore these things too. I guess let me frame the question: are there any pieces of the puzzle that you could imagine, if the funding piece was worked out by a consortium of the states or whatever, where certain pieces of it could be built and scaled at a more efficient level? Thank you.
For the SciTap project that we developed in AI University, absolutely. That's exactly what we were trying to do, right? We don't want to duplicate efforts where we don't need to do that. And everything that we've done is applicable to every state. So, yeah, I absolutely think that for the AI education and for the groups, the more the merrier, and we can really get that to a place where we can provide the information and the support as efficiently as possible.
Yeah, I think one of the things that could separate is getting people familiar and willing to engage with like tools that are built, and sometimes those questions are merged. I will say that for us, like on the lease question, we're talking to the legal aid in Maryland and the Chicago folks, and then saying, how can we leapfrog off of what they've done, or is what they've done workable enough for Michigan? So I definitely think there is to be done.
Any other questions? Here you go. So I'm from Legal Services of North Florida, and one of the grants that we had applied to that we never got funding for, which I'm going to kind of plug because there's a lot of funders in here, was a AI chatbot, and this could be cognitive bias because a lot of our communities that we service are rural. So we wanted to make a AI chatbot that was text-based, that would give not advice, but what they could fill out for X, Y, or Z, for divorce, for housing, if they were going through probate, and that. trying to think of a good way to say this. How are you guys trying to use AI to, I guess, help bridge that economic divide, as there's a barrier to entry for a lot of legal aid organizations' clients, because you have to have an internet access and a computer, and that can be a big barrier for people.
So we actually are working with one partner right now to deploy chatbots in a way that is kind of on their website. So and mobile friendly, right? So any person who would otherwise go to their website would be able to access it and use it at a fairly affordable, as affordably as we can make it. And the more we can do, the more affordable we can make it. So
I feel like our responsibility as funders is to, one, provide funding to help with these kinds of initiatives. I think that sometimes there's a wide range of activities you can be doing as a legal services provider that's actively helping our client community. And I think one of the new things is helping people with AI literacy. I think grantees of funders are the ones who are interacting with clients regularly and can really help direct folks to different ways of learning how to use AI in effective ways and safe ways. I think there's also, I don't have examples of this in California, though I think it's something that we're interested in exploring. There's initiatives that are looking at using non-lawyer legal navigators, community justice workers, to basically be like a human component alongside an AI tool. So you don't just have someone using AI on their own. There's someone, a professional who's been trained, who works with legal aid to help someone read that information and digest it in a way that, one, makes sense and resonates, but two, will actually be something that's helpful, accurate, and actionable.
Yeah, and I know for us, we're working with the self-help centers and then realizing that for lots of users, it's not going to be an app, it's going to be they come in, they're going to engage with something, and I forget what slide I have, but helping helpers, right? How can we make their jobs easier and able to serve our people? And I have to put in a plug, I had just this big dream that law school libraries will become like these amazing places that are open, accessible, and provide tons of great information. So.
Yeah, I think that one of the things that legal aid organizations can do, and every state has a statewide website that provides legal content and legal information. Why not provide information about, if you have this problem, you can ask an AI these questions to get answers, right? So providing them with prompt guidance in addition to information about their rights and responsibilities, so that if they're looking for answers, they, to their specific problem, they could use those prompts to get more information, more tailored information.
Hi. So, say I'm like a legal aid attorney. I've been hearing all about AI. I know ChatGPT exists. I maybe asked it to write a bedtime story once, but haven't done much with it. And I want to make sure I'm using these AI tools. Is there some place we can go to find reliable tools? Do I just need to download some sort of package from OpenAI and build my own? It sounds like there are a bunch of tools people are building that might help clients or other legal aids have projects going, but for my own practice, is there something individually I should be doing other than just trying to make sure I'm AI literate?
I mean, there's a lot of tools out there. One of the things you do need to make sure you're doing, though, is if you're using a free tool, of course, not putting any type of personal information into it. But I don't know that it matters if you just use Copilot because your office has, Microsoft 365, or you decide to get the paid version of ChatGPT or Claude, or, just starting to use them and understand how you can interact with them is the first step.
I was just going to plug, LSC has a AI Peer Learning Lab series where they're highlighting different uses of AI around the country in different areas that legal aid is working in. So there's like AI peer learning lab specifically for advocates and folks who are focused on client services. There's also some of their webinars are focused on operational uses, finance, HR, etc. They also have a Box Hub that has resources on it that describe all of these different projects. And there's also other resources, including from our programs that are on there. So I would encourage you to check that out.
Yeah, we'll be talking about that in the tomorrow morning session, in the general session.
How are others supporting AI capacity building? What are you all doing?
Funding Florida Legal Aid is this year going to fund the entire state, I believe, with Westlaw AI. We've tried it. We've had opportunities to try it out, but now they're actually going to fund Westlaw. And, you know, I think it's called co-counsel. I don't do research anymore.
Yeah, I think that's a co-counsel.
Are they going to provide training for everybody? Oh, good.
It's generous.
Yeah.
We have a training committee at my office, Coast to Coast Legal Aid of South Florida, in
Great.
Fort Lauderdale.
Yeah.
And so January was this co-counsel training and Westlaw training.
That's amazing. We find that organizations often forget about the change management piece and the training piece, so that's so important for adoption because you just hand it to somebody and they're just going to be like, I don't know what to do with it, especially something complicated like Westlaw. So that's great. That's awesome.
I think we're at the end of our time. Thank you all for being here. We appreciate your attention. Sorry for getting the slow start at the beginning, but our contact information is, in the CVent app, so feel free to reach out to any of us if you want to have further discussions. And thank you.